Hi guys. So today I am just happy to be bringing a video out. About a week ago, the power went out in my house and it actually killed the motherboard in my computer. So it has been dead for about a week, but I finally got the new motherboard in last night and my computer is fixed and I am so ready to get back to working in Photoshop and editing videos. I really miss that. But yeah, today's video is a traditional piece that I did during that time, that week where I couldn't work in Photoshop. And yeah, it was really fun actually. I really enjoyed this piece and I like the final outcome and it's really different from kind of I don't know, what I've been doing. And it's a lot looser and I think that the reason that I think this one I like as opposed to some of the other pieces that I've done that have been loose like this is that I started out with a lot more refined of a sketch. I think that's the biggest issue is a lot of times in my past ones where I was in the mindset of I'm going to do a loose picture, I would start off with a pretty loose drawing and then obviously it's just going to get worse from there if the details and the structure and the bones behind it are all off. They're not really right because you can't really fix that after the point. So yeah, I think that was the biggest thing that really helped is that when I went in and did brush work that was looser and I did ink work that was a little bit looser, it still looked right because it wasn't like her facial proportions were off, which a lot of times happens when I'm working loosely. So yeah, it was a really good experience where starting off with something solid and then letting the execution be loose rather than letting the sketch be loose and the execution and ultimately have something I was unhappy with. So, and working on this piece, there was a specific type of paper that I wanted to use for it. When I was cleaning out my closet where I have a lot of the paper and the pictures from a lot of the classes that I've already taken, I have a ton of this printmaking paper and it's really nice quality. It's thick and it feels great when you touch it. I love touching paper, but so yeah, so it's actually specifically meant for printmaking. And when you're printmaking, you submerge your paper in water and then it absorbs it and then you run it through a press with your plate and that presses the ink into it. So I did know that it was supposed to be able to absorb a lot of water and I wanted to try it out with watercolor because I really want to get use out of this paper because like I said, I have a ton of it and it's really nice and I don't actually have access to a printing press anymore, so I want to be able to get some use out of it. So I tried it with watercolor and I think it was mostly successful. I think the biggest drawback is that this paper is actually really soft. So if I were to go in with an eraser, it would absolutely obliterate the paper. It would completely peel it up, which I've done before on accident, and I've learned my lesson. So when I'm working on this, I definitely can't draw on it. And when I'm working with watercolor, I noticed that when I was starting to put on a lot of layers of water, it would start to get kind of this like, I don't know, a little bit of a mottled texture to the paper, just a little bit. And when I really touched it a lot with the brush, it also did that. And it wasn't bad, but I could just see it just starting to break the paper down. And that's obviously not good. So it's not really good paper for doing a lot of layering or for really scrubbing it in there with my brush or doing a lot of watercolor techniques. But it did actually accept the first couple of layers pretty well, and I like how thick it is because it didn't buckle at all. Obviously, it's not supposed to. So yeah, I think that I'll definitely be able to use it a lot more for watercolor pictures where I have it a lot simpler, and that way I can do really loose brush strokes and it's not something that's really as detailed or I need to go in and add as many layers or really get in there with the brush. So yeah, it's good that I did this and I'm glad that I could experiment on this paper so I could learn some of its limitations for future pictures so that I can get as much use out of this paper as possible. And my favorite part of this piece, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I think that it was successful for the image itself, but I really enjoyed working with it, was this like gold glitter embossing powder, and it was so pretty. But yeah, so I just put down a really thin layer of Mod Podge and then sprinkled that on top and brushed away anywhere that it was still sticking to the paper that I didn't want it to stay on the paper. And then I used that green tool that you see me use a lot of times when I'm doing watercolor. It's actually an embossing gun, so it'll superheat the embossing powder and it melts it so it becomes like a coating rather than individual embossing powders and glitter. And it actually works really well for drying out watercolor so I can move on and add more layers on top. So it's a really handy tool. And yeah, this is the first time that I use the embossing powder in an actual piece, and I really love the effect of it. So I think I want to definitely experiment more with it and try to get it to be a little bit more refined, because I'd like to use it in like a really finished, refined piece. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all my future art videos, and I'll see you in my next one.